I have 4 different kinds of growing mediums here in front of me, and I want to test if any of them make a significant difference when it comes to germinating seeds, as well as growing the seedling in the first few days and weeks after germination. Welcome back to the garden. My name is Jair, and thank you so much for joining me during this little experiment of mine. It is a beautiful rainy day during February, but the sowing and growing season has officially begun. Now, we cannot sow that much yet, but there are some things such as leafy greens like lettuce or spinach, tomatoes and peppers, provided that you keep them warm enough. And if you want to try to be quite early, you can also sow some onion seeds right now. So today I'll be sowing 2 different kinds of crops. I'll be sowing a tomato variety called Sweetie, which I think is adorable. And I'm also sowing an onion variety called Rijnsburger. Now, I've sown this one last year and it grows absolutely massive onions. Now, what kind of growing medium do I actually have here in front of me? I have a set of everything. We have regular potting mix. It is organic, but other than that, nothing special. I have my own made Johnson Su bioreactor compost, which is almost fully decomposed. There are still some pieces of leaves visible, but it's perfect to start sowing something in. Then I have my regular compost. That is just a compost that I create by dumping all of the organic material that I find here in my garden into the compost bin. And finally, I have some pure worm castings. Yes, I have a worm bin nowadays, and it actually has produced its first batch of worm castings, so that's very cool. Comment worm down in the comment section below if you want to see a video how I made this very simple worm bin. Now, even though I have made some labels for the pots, it's actually quite easy to spot the difference between all of the mediums. The regular potting soil is just dark and fluffy, and there's not really much to see over there. The compost from the Johnson Su bioreactor still has some traces of leaves in there. The compost from my regular compost bin is a bit messy. You can still see traces of wood, stones, sticks in there, and it's also quite heavy, quite dense. And the worm castings are probably the most sticky and muddy out of the 4. Now, concerning my experiment, the things that I'm looking out for are speed of germination, the general size and growth of the seedlings after germination, the color, if there is any difference in there, I will also mention that. And probably also the size of the root or the root system. Because when I will eventually transplant these to a different spot, I will get a good look at the root system. So I'm going to sow the onions and the tomatoes today. Now, the onions will remain here in the greenhouse where the cover will be enough for them to safely germinate. But the tomatoes will travel back home with me in this little greenhouse that I have over here, and they will sit on a windowsill because they need to remain warm during germination. All right, so we will start with the onion seeds. Now, onion seeds are a bunch of little black rocks, and they tend to degrade in quality quite fast, so that's why I bought some new ones. This pot over here holds the regular potting soil. This one over here is the Johnson Su bioreactor compost. Now, if you've followed my channel for a while, you know I've been rambling about Johnson Su bioreactor compost, but it's time that I put my money where my mouth is. So let's see if it actually helps with germination. Now, over here, this one is the regular compost. And finally, over here, we have the worm castings. Very slushy, sticky, and to be honest, a bit icky as well. All right, I'm just going to sow a bunch of seeds in there, somewhere between 10 and 20, probably. Eventually, it will be enough to spot the difference between the pots. Then let's continue with the tomatoes. It's a little bit bright, but these are called Sweetie. Right over here, you can see them. Very small, even for tomato standards, I say. But as I've read, tomato seeds will basically germinate in whatever medium they can find. And if you ever made your own homegrown compost, you know that they pop up everywhere if you accidentally got a tomato inside of your compost. All right, there we go. And finally, we're going to spray them down just like that. This spray does need a little bit of adjustment when it comes to its directions, but oh well. There we go. All right, that is the sowing done. Like I said before, the onions will remain here undercover inside of the dome, and the tomatoes will travel back with me to sit on a warm windowsill inside of the house. And I will check back with you in a couple of days, which will of course be instantly for you, when I see some proper germination going on. All right, see you in a bit. Hey there, welcome back. It's been a week and there has been a slight development concerning the tomato seeds. Now, the tomatoes have been sitting on a warm windowsill inside of the house over here, and 2 out of the 4 pots have shown germination. So 2 seedlings in the regular potting soil have been popping up, as well as a couple of seedlings in the Johnson-Su bioreactor compost. The other 2 pots, the worm castings and the normal compost, have not shown any sign of germination, and I think that is due to the fact that the soil is a little bit more compact, so I think it's more difficult for the seedlings to punch through that. But all in all, we have some germination, so that's good. Now let's check out the onion seedlings in the greenhouse in the garden. So we are back here in the dome, and I can be quite short and sweet about the onion seeds. None of them have germinated yet. I think that has to do with the fact that the temperatures have been quite irregular at the moment. We've had some frost, we've had some plus 10 degrees Celsius during the day, and even though this is a greenhouse, it can still get pretty cold at the moment. So I think I still need to be a little bit more patient, give these guys a little bit more time, but so far, no joy. All right, it's day 14, another week has passed, so let's check out how the seedlings have developed so far. All right, I took the pots off the windowsill for a second because the sun was really bright. Let's start off with the seedlings that germinated first, the ones in the Johnson-Su bioreactor compost, and they have grown very well so far. They are the tallest of the bunch, not by a long shot, but still they've developed quite well. There are some other seedlings growing in there as well, but nothing to really worry about. Second, we have the regular potting soil, which has also done very well. A lot of seedlings have germinated, and they are about the same size as the Johnson-Su bioreactor. So both of those pots have done very well. Now, if we go over to the regular compost, they took a little bit longer to germinate, but as you can see, there are a few coming up. Also some other seedlings that are not tomatoes, but that's what you can expect if you make your own compost. And finally, we have the worm compost, and that is the saddest story of the bunch. A single root or stem tried to germinate out of the worm castings, but as you can see, nothing else happened. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, let's go over to the garden and see if any of the onion seedlings have germinated. Well, that is a whole lot of nothing. I think I made a mistake here. Yeah, I think this one is on me. I think it was too early to start sowing onion seeds in an unheated greenhouse such as mine. So I'm probably going to take these home and hope that the warmth of the house will help them germinate, or I'm just going to re-sow them because I think I still have enough seeds. Now, this was of course kind of the built-in fail-safe of the experiment, that if I would sow 2 different kinds of seeds, at least one of them would germinate. So the onion seeds are a big fail. That one is probably on me, but the tomatoes have been a very big success so far. So, what do I think of this experiment so far? Well, first of all, it is of course a very simple experiment. I had no real expectations whatsoever. I just wanted to see if the soils would make any significant difference when it comes to germinating the seeds. Now, I do know that seeds come with their own little storage package of energy that help them germinate in the first place, regardless of the soil they find themselves in. Now, when it comes to the regular compost, I think it's somewhat more compact and it warms up a little bit slower than the rest. However, eventually the seedlings did germinate, as well as some other undefined weeds. And finally, the worm castings, I think that stuff is so compact and so thick that the seeds either couldn't really penetrate through the soil or maybe it's even too potent for the seeds to germinate or for them to really reach the surface. Maybe they got burned along the way. Not really sure about that, so do leave a comment in the section below what you guys think about it, because I'm really curious about your opinion. Now, this is not going to be the end of the experiment. I will make another video in the near future. I will keep monitoring the growth of the seedlings, and I will repot them when the time comes in the different kind of mediums and soils to see if that has any significant difference for the future growth of the plants. But so far, thank you so much for watching the video. Leave a like and perhaps a comment in the section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.